As an experienced NPC, I realized that life is full of surprises. Sometimes main characters come out of nowhere to impose damage on me, both physical and mental. My favorite method of coping is eating tiramisu, because it means pick me up. So for a brief moment, I'll feel like nobody can drag me down. Nobody can drag me down. Today, let's share this key to happiness by making 2 tiramisu recipes. One only takes 10 minutes, the other one is a little more convoluted. We're gonna start with the easy one. I got this recipe from Nino's home. It's called the 10-minute tiramisu, but I finished it in 7. Finishing early is sort of in my repertoire. Starting off with 400 grams of mascarpone cheese. I was doing some research on this cheese. I thought it was really fancy. It turned out it's just curdled cream. Why don't you take a closer look? Now we're putting 50 grams of sugar, 200 grams of heavy whipping cream. Why is it so thick? A splash of vanilla extract. Maybe another splash. Now we start mixing to get everything combined and the sugar dissolved. The spatula is not strong enough. I'm gonna have to take out my secret weapon. It's the Ligma fork. Why is it named Ligma, you may ask?
Ligma. Ligma? Ligma bars.
Once they're all combined, the custard is basically done. Nothing's ever too thick for me, but if this is for you, add a little bit more milk to it. Now in a separate bowl, put in 5 grams of instant coffee. The recipe also calls for sugar, but I'm gonna leave it for now. You'll see why in a second. About 100 milliliters of hot water to mix it thoroughly. We need to wait for it to come to room temperature first, but I'd like to be the master of thermodynamics in my house, so we'll speed the process up. Time to dip the lady fingers, except I don't have any. Trader Joe's doesn't carry it, and there's no point to walk to another store just to buy overbaked tiny breadsticks, so I'm gonna use these madeleines instead. I didn't come up with this idea, one of the staff members did. So we'll dip each cookie/cake into the coffee for like 2 seconds and put it in the container. Half of the mixture, spread it out evenly, another layer of mermaid fingers, and finally smooth out the top. It actually looks pretty legit. Now we just have to put it in the fridge for an hour, wait for it to set. After waiting, we'll just dust it with cocoa powder and it's ready to eat. It's time to give it a taste and rate it 1 through 10. I found this to be common among all Nino's recipes is that it's not sweet at all. Overall, we only used 50 grams of sugar to like 600 grams of dairy product. I'm totally addicted to sugar and I'm proud of it, but I guess Nino's Japanese and he makes healthy decisions for himself. It's extremely rich and creamy. That's why I feel like there's not enough sugar to balance it out. When you take a bite, the creaminess immediately dominates your tongue. And not in a good way. Nino's recipe looked really good, so I must have messed it up somehow. But overall, it's a 5 out of 10. Hopefully the next one is better. Since we're trying to be as authentic as we can, we're making ladyfingers from scratch, following Preppy Kitchen.
Egg whites are going into a little bowl just in case we have a broken yolk.
Egg whites into the little bowl, and egg yolks into the bigger bowl.
1/4 cup of granulated sugar to the egg yolks, that's 50 grams.
50 grams of sugar into the yolk.
1/4 teaspoon of salt for contrast.
Key bump sea salt for contrast.
1/2 teaspoon of vanilla, that's just a little blessing.
A splash of vanilla as a blessing.
I'm gonna beat this on medium speed until it's pale and fluffy.
We'll beat it on medium speed till pale and fluffy, like a rich person's dog.
2, you wanna pump some volume into here because we're gonna fold the egg whites in later.
When he said that we're gonna fold the egg whites in later, I have a bad feeling about needing to whip it till stiff peaks. You wanna whip the egg yolks into pale and smooth like this.
Alright, trade your bowls out.
Changing the bowls up.
If you want, you could definitely use a stand mixer with a whisk attachment for this, but I find this to be easier just with a hand mixer.
Any chance it's easier to beat it by hand? Alright, time to beat it on the couch.
A good bedtime story. So I turned to Reddit, just cruising around, perusing, see if I could find anything that'd give me the yawns and help me.
That's what you want to see. So I have a peak that's not completely stiff, it's a little bit floppy, but it's definitely holding its shape.
Well, in my experience, even if it's floppy, it doesn't mean it wouldn't work.
Our egg yolks are looking a little sad now, so we're gonna give them just a few seconds of beating.
When I used to look sad, my parents also gave me a few seconds of beating.
I'll use this like 3 batches. The first batch is the most satisfying. See that beautiful yellow-white situation.
The first is the most satisfying, but also the most scary. Since the two haven't been entangled like this before, you gotta be gentle with it.
Last little bit of egg whites are coming out.
Last little bit of egg white and just fold everything in.
1 cup of flour, it's 120 grams.
Into a sieve, 1 cup of flour.
5 teaspoons of cornstarch.
5 teaspoons of cornstarch.
I'm gonna sift and fold, sift and fold.
Sift and fold.
If you just dump the flour in, it could definitely be lumpy.
It's okay. Sometimes lumpy is good. This is starting to remind me of a souffle pancake batter.
I just want to see that there's no streaks of flour remaining, and I'm being so gentle with this batter. Perfect.
Well, I don't see streaks of flour, but it kind of looks like it's fermenting.
To our piping bag, large round tip, you could use a 1A. This is an 809.
I do have piping bags, but I don't have piping tips. I used to, but then my roommate lost them. Once I get new ones, he's not allowed to touch my tips anymore.
Now we're gonna pipe 4-inch little logs that are about 1 inch thick. So start pipe.
4 inches in length and 1 inch in girth. That's the shape I'm most used to piping. Don't ask me why.
Ladyfingers are not like the most beautiful cookie in the world, so don't worry if yours are like a little bit oblong or have a little moment of being wonky.
My life is full of moments of being wonky. I just erase them from my memories.
The secret is a liberal dusting of powdered sugar.
So how liberal are we talking about? Like AOC liberal?
For 12 to 15 minutes at 350 or until they're slightly golden and firm to the touch.
Now they're gonna go into the oven at 350 for 13 minutes.
For the ultimate pleasure, grab some espresso or hot chocolate.
Here are my finished Homer Simpson's fingers. They actually seem to have a good texture to them. We'll start making the batter while they cool.
Starting with 1/2 cup of dark rum.
I don't have rum because my life is not exciting, but I found these Godiva dark chocolate liqueur. From the days when I first moved to New York City, I tried to become a bartender. But that's a story for another time. Should we do a Q&A video soon? Is anybody even interested in my life? Let me know.
To my rum, I'm adding 1.5 cups of my dark coffee.
I was just pouring the coffee that I was gonna drink. I only drink black coffee because once you go there, you never go back.
To a large bowl, I'm adding 16 ounces of room temperature mascarpone cheese.
To a large bowl, add 450 grams of mascarpone cheese.
1/4 cup of dark rum.
1/4 cup of the chocolate liqueur I had.
Now we're gonna whisk this up, and you can't use an electric mixer for this until it is nice and smooth.
And mix it by hand till nice and smooth. Why does mine look separated? Seems like it's curdling again.
6 egg whites from the yolk.
6 egg yolks from the whites.
2/3 cup of sugar into your egg yolks.
2/3 cups of sugar into the egg yolks.
Over our simmering water for a double boiler. What we're making right now is basically a zibiglione.
So with some simmering water, we'll put the bowl on top to make a double boiler or a bain-marie. Continue to whisk it on and off the heat till it is pale and creamy like this.
Pour the egg yolk mixture into our mascarpone and just mix together until it's combined.
What is going on with my mascarpone? It looks like someone threw it up, but we'll just dump it into the custard we made earlier and then combine it till smooth. It looks much better now, but still a tiny bit granular, I feel like.
Time to whip some heavy cream up.
Time to suffer some more for the day.
2 cups of cold heavy cream into the bowl of your stand mixer or a large bowl if you're using a hand mixer.
1 cup of heavy cream into my small bowl when I'm using an organic stand mixer.
And then 2 teaspoons of a nice vanilla.
And a splash of mediocre vanilla.
We're gonna whip this up until it's on the stiffer side as far as whipped cream peaks go.
Okay, I've decided that this is the last thing I'm gonna beat today. If it requires more beating later in the recipe, I'm not doing it.
It's time to fold the whipped cream into your custard.
Since we only had 1 cup of whipped cream, I'm only gonna pour half the batter into it. Maybe we can drink the other half.
So amazing. You're gonna have to restrain yourself and not just dig in right now because it's completely delicious as is.
You know what? Let's put a little more in there. It wouldn't hurt.
So tiramisu might seem like the ultimate classic Italian dessert, but it's fairly modern.
I kind of figured with all this whipping, no Italian grandma's arm can sustain beating this many eggs in a day without a machine. She has to save energy to whoop her grandson's ass.
It's time to start assembling your tiramisu.
Time to start the assembly. I'm gonna use the pie dish that Larry was in a week ago.
Your lady fingers only need just a very quick dip of like 2 seconds per side.
Let's give these Homer Simpson's finger a taste. It's not bad. It's kind of chewy. It's more like a cake than a cookie because I feel like the store-bought ones are crunchy. But this one is like soft.
You don't want to completely saturate your ladyfingers because it'll just be soggy.
Alright, as he said, we're gonna dip it really quickly, less than 2 seconds. We don't need any more soggy 4-inch items in this apartment. And then we'll repeat the same process for every piece. Look how quickly I'm dipping here. I wonder if freshly baked ones work differently than the store-bought ones.
Half of this creamy, dreamy mixture over it.
Half of this creamy, sort of granular mixture over it.
Then just continue soaking and placing.
And just continue soaking and placing. But we ran out of ladyfingers. What should I do?
Now we're gonna completely entomb this in our delicious filling.
Now we'll completely entomb this in our delicious filling. That's a word I've never heard before. I think it's spilling out. Maybe it's the ghost of Larry.
Cocoa powder on top. Beautiful. If you're noticing all the mess here, that is what paper towels are for.
I'm trying to conserve paper towels in my apartment, so I'm gonna put a parchment paper underneath. And to go even above and beyond, I'm grating real chocolate instead of cocoa powder. When I started grating it, I realized it's got nuts in it. Even though I never say no to nuts, I prefer it completely dark. After it's covered with chocolate and hazelnut, we can clean up the workstation in 5 seconds.
Nice job, team.
Your tiramisu is technically ready to enjoy, but it should firm up overnight.
I want to taste it at its best, so I'm gonna let it set overnight. Doesn't really look like tiramisu. The nuts kind of makes it look like somebody just sawed some wood logs. You know what? I'm gonna post this on Instagram and let you guys guess what it is.
What's poppin'? Brand new whip, just hopped in. I got options. I can pass that like Stockton. Just joshing. I'm spending this holiday locked in. My body got rid of them toxins. Sports in the top 10. I can put the bar.
Well, let's cut it up and see how it looks on the inside. Yeah, that's gonna break it. Struggling so much over here.
You made the lady fingers though?
Yeah, I did. I can't see any. I think it looks a little too pale to be tiramisu. Maybe I didn't soak it enough. The rest of the cake is extremely pale too. It looks like a British version of tiramisu. Well, before we taste it, let's compare it with the 10-minute one we made yesterday real quick. Now that they're side by side, I have to be honest, the 10-minute one looks a little more legit. But you know, before we judge it too harshly, let's give it a taste and rate it 1 through 10.
I thought that I've been hurt before.
I didn't expect it to be so boozy. I'm a lightweight, so I'm about to start having stupid ideas. The cream is sort of flavorless and too liquidy, and the ladyfingers for some reason are rock hard. They didn't get soaked at all, and the center became really stale. The 10-minute recipe isn't that much better. The only redeeming quality of it are the madeleines, because they're light and buttery and didn't get made by me. So to sum it up, I messed both of them up so badly that I'm gonna give it a combined score of 3 out of 10. I mean, both recipes from Nino and John are really good. I think I just changed them too much. But these tiramisus taste so horrible. There's gonna be an army of Italian grandma waiting outside of my apartment, waiting to chop off my hands so I can't make them again. And to be honest with all of you, I'm in shock right now a little bit. Just the self-revelation of how badly I can mess up a recipe. Because no way it tastes this horrible. And if I don't do something about it, this trauma is gonna prevent me from having tiramisu ever again. So I decided to go outside and hit up all the best tiramisu spots in New York City. I'm bringing you guys along with me. Are you excited?
So excited! So excited!
I don't know why, but Soho always makes me uncomfortable. Not very NPC friendly here. But the first place we're visiting is called Bar Primi. It's supposed to have one of the best tiramisus in town, according to Eaters magazine. Also, the past 2 years, this place repeatedly went viral on TikTok, which is why they're extremely packed at all times, like this. As the only customers in this entire restaurant, my roommate and I only ordered 1 plate of tiramisu. I'm surprised at how perfectly cut this thing is. My fork received 0 resistance scraping down, and this little piece is staying on top of it, holding its structural integrity pretty well. I have high hopes for this. Let's give it a taste and rate it 1 through 10. The flavors has a lot of intense richness to it. The creaminess is balanced out by the cocoa powder, coffee, and alcohol. The texture is surprisingly light as air, which makes me suspect that they didn't use ladyfingers, they used sponge cake instead. After a few bites in, I'm pretty confident that it's cake. The word tiramisu has become so lucrative these days, but I'm not complaining. I'm gonna give it an 8.3. My only issue is that there's too much whipped cream. I don't really taste the mascarpone. The vibe of this place is pretty awesome, good for people watching. Their bathroom has these little hooks for your coats and stuff in the winter, which is rare to see in New York City. Overall, it makes me feel like I'm back in Florence, even though I've never been there. But our next place is supposed to be a first-class ticket to Naples. The flashing light makes me not want to go in. A lot of greenery, white and blue, can't go wrong with that. So I looked this up on Google Translate. Abrachem true fort means hold me tighter. That's a good phrase to remember for a cold romantic evening in the fall, or you're about to fall off a cliff or something. And look at all these lemons. And here's a conversation between me and my roommate that explains why he tells people I'm stupid. That was real. Look at this moped. Look at these tables. Look at that picture on the wall. It makes me feel like I'm in Greece. I guess the Mediterranean basin can be pretty interchangeable sometime in terms of culture, but all these color coordination makes me feel like I'm about to shove down a souvlaki in my mouth instead of a pizza. Here's the infamous Sanghi Napoli, supposed to be one of the best, according to Eaters. It looks like a poorly prepared ice cream cup, and the expectation versus reality is hitting me a little too harshly right now. So let's scoop a scoop. Again, very little to no resistance. Looking into the hole, it appears to be really wet. I bet the ladyfingers got soaked really well. This one kind of reminds me of the tiramisu pie I just made earlier. It's just as flavorless, except this one is extremely wet and soft. It's got a snotty texture to it. Feels like somebody blew their nose into the bottom of the cup. I'll show you real quick. Look over here. You see what I'm talking about? 4 out of 10. Last but not least, we have Ferrara Bakery. Not Ferrero, not Ferrari, but Ferrara. This bakery has been in New York City, Little Italy for more than 120 years. They first started off as an establishment of money laundering for the mafia. I don't know for sure though, that's just my assumption, cause I'm pretty ignorant like that. Before we get to the tiramisu, look at this lobster tail. It's so huge, I can't even hold it with one hand. And if you take a look at this side, it's literally oozing with cream. So excited. So why don't you hear this crunch, and another reason why my roommate thinks I'm stupid? I'll take just a tip then.
I'll grab it by the base.
Let's give it a taste and rate it 1 to 10. This is some life-changing stuff. I can't believe how good this is. It's literally filled to the brim and rim. It's so flaky, crunchy, rich, and creamy, but the flavors are airy and refreshing. I can one bite this whole thing if I wanted to. Let's move on to the tiramisu. It's got a very classic look to it. Seems humble, no fancy plates, no weird cups with logos. As I'm tasting it, it blew my mind. The best tiramisu I've ever had in New York City, even though I only had 2 other ones. It's a perfect mixture of mascarpone and whipped cream. The balance of creaminess and airiness is on point, and the ladyfingers are just soaked enough that it's soft. You don't see any juice running off on the bottom. I'm gonna give this a 9.1 out of 10, and the lobster tail a 9.5 out of 10. I completely understand now why they've been successful for the past 125 years. I definitely will be coming back. I'm sorry I wasn't able to demonstrate to you a successful attempt in tiramisu, but I hope you learned a few things about baking today and took down some recommendations in New York City. I'll try to do better next time. Alright, thank you.